Hey, Bart Miller here with Cycling Strong. Really excited today. We've got Hunter Allen with us, and most of you out there know that I've looked up to Hunter for so long. I've read every one of his books. I try to follow everything that he does out there. I just can't believe today I get the chance to talk to him. I was just telling him a second ago, this is probably like me getting the chance to interview Lance Armstrong. Like, it's just amazing to me. So I'll probably be stumbling with my words and making a fool of myself. But Hunter, thank you so much for taking some time out to talk with us today.
Hey Bart, I'm super psyched to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me on the show, and you know, it's always great to talk with new folks and spread the power word.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we want to find out a little bit about you. So the first thing is, tell us a little bit about you, how you got started in the industry, and kind of a little bit of background.
Sure, absolutely. You know, I mean, I started racing BMX when I was 11 and went to mountain biking and then to road cycling, and raced in Europe and Spain in '92, and then was a pro on the Navigators team in '94, '95, and you know, I pretty much slayed my dragons as an athlete, and decided, hey, I wanted to spread the knowledge, and felt like I had an obligation to become a cycling coach. One, because I didn't have a coach myself, you know, and I always wanted to have a coach, so that was really important to me. I felt like, man, I lost 2 years of training because I just did this hit or miss trial and error thing, where I could have had somebody who could have shortcut me straight to that place. So anyway, started in the cycling world, started coaching. Eventually, you know, a guy came to me. He was a young student in college, and said, hey, you know, I can't pay you, but how about I'll build you a website?
Yeah.
This is 1997. And I was like, what's a website?
That's awesome.
And he said, well, it's like a business card online. You know, it probably won't do much, but it'll be kind of cool. I'm like, all right. So anyway, he built me a website. So after about 3 months, I was like, turn it off. I don't need any more clients.
Oh, how funny. That's awesome.
So anyway, so that was how it started, and started working with a bunch of my old friends who are former pro cyclists that were helping me coach. I had an athlete come to me in about year 2000 and say, hey, will you coach me with a power meter? And I said, well, I guess. I don't know much about power meters. I can try. And so, you know, we started coaching him, started working with him, and realized I had no idea what 1,000 watts meant. Is that good? Is that bad? Is 300 watts hard? I don't know.
Right.
So I bought one of the original power taps, the old gray ones, and started training again. Just went out and did training rides and tried to learn things and figure out what I did. And then, you know, then he turned out to be a programmer as well. And we ended up building a piece of software called Cycling Peaks software.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's turned into what we call now Training Peaks WKO. Training Peaks used to be called Training Bible with Joe Friel and his son Dirk. And then we had a company called Cycling Peaks, so we merged them together and became Training Peaks. Then Dr. Kong and I wrote a book about it, wrote another book with Dr. Steve Chung, wrote a second edition, working on third edition, blah, blah. Just having a lot of fun.
That's awesome, and I love Training Peaks. The only thing I have to say is I'm an all Mac guy, so it's been the biggest pain in my side ever because I always have to have something on the other side of my computer, or I have to have a PC to be able to get all the numbers. And anyway, I know you feel my pain, and I know we're a minority, but at the same time, it's been such a pain in the ass to get figured out. But I've done it.
Good news for you. We have a native Mac version coming in late this year in the winter for WKO. It's going to be version 4.
Awesome.
It's really cool. I've got it running on my MacBook Pro right now. It's not a kludge. It's not a port of a Windows app into a Mac app.
Yeah.
It's native Mac. It's got all the cool Mac look and feel.
Awesome.
Things. It's sweet. So.
Man.
A lot of people, I think, are really excited.
Well, I'm beyond psyched, so I can't wait to get a hands on it. If you need somebody to test it prior, make sure you let me know, and be delighted to help you out. So that's really exciting. So I'm going to ask a few more questions and kind of just lead the conversation. Anything you want to jump in with, feel free to. But you've worked with a lot of top athletes from all over the world. What is a common kind of a thread you find amongst all athletes?
Wow, that's a good question. A common thread for a lot of people, in terms of, it's I guess we see a lot of. It's hard to say because we got a lot of biased athletes.
Sure.
The people that we coach are highly motivated. They're definitely they're trying to achieve. They're trying to be the best that they can be and get to where they want to be with the time that they have allotted.
Yeah.
We all have a limited amount of time to train.
You bet.
So we're always trying to find what's the optimal training. And
you bet.
So I think that that's probably one of the most common things is when they come and they say, hey, I don't maybe understand all this data, or maybe I really like this data, but I don't have time to mess with this data.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help me make that shortcut?
Yeah.
How do I get to be a competitive masters racer, or how do I get to do the Atapta Tour and finish it strong, or how do I do this Gran Fondo and do really well? I mean, and with my limited time, and I got kids and work and all these other things, so we're always trying to shortcut that.
Right.
That's probably one of the common things we're seeing.
Okay, so time. Obviously, I would think time would be one of them. What do you think about, like, a common thread being people just, they want to be something, but they don't put the effort in. I don't know how to say, I don't want to say they don't put the right effort into it, because, like, I'll just use myself as an example, right? I started without a coach, obviously, and then I got a coach, and then now I've gone back without a coach, and this year I'm going, okay, am I going to go to a coach? Am I going to do an online program? What am I going to do this year? And just kind of give you background is Leadville is like the big ride again for me this next year, and a race called Lodija, which is a 206-mile bike race I'm sure you've heard about. And when I started in all those things, like it's so overwhelming because there's so much information that from so many different directions, especially when you work online, that it's hard to just say, okay, clear your head and this is it, type of thing. So I don't know that a common thread amongst a lot of us is that we get confused as hell on what to really go after. I mean, I'm reading one blog saying you need to be 130 pounds, Bart, or 125 at your leanest, and you need to eat this, this, and this, and this from the nutrition end of it. Then I'm reading I got to do this much workout, or I mean, it's like, holy cow, how do I? Do you find that at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that is very common, Bart, and I think that's where you have to just say, I believe in this philosophy, or this coach resonates with me,
mm-hmm.
or this idea of training principles really resonates with me, and so then I'm going to do that. I think that when you try and pull this from here, pull that from there, and pull this from over here, it ends up being this kind of kludgy thing that you're not really committed to one way or the other.
Right.
And so that's part of it, right? As having a coach is, one of the biggest things is that you have 100% confidence in your coach.
Yeah. All
right. So as soon as an athlete loses the confidence in the coach, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They are gone. That's
right.
it. So I don't believe in this coach anymore. My confidence has been shaken for one reason or another, and then we just don't believe in them anymore, and they just don't do the workouts. So the key thing, really, is that when you, if you decide that you want to have a coach, if you decide that you are going to become a coach, or whatever those things are, is the athlete has to be 100% committed and have 100% confidence in that coach, and then that coach has to be able to, express that confidence.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you wouldn't want to be coached by some guy who's like, oh, hey, Bart, how's it going?
Right.
I mean, one, they don't have charisma. They don't
right.
Well, I think maybe your threshold is 310, but it could be 270.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, right? You have to know that this guy knows what the heck's going on. And is going to give you the best. And when you know that, right, as an athlete, right, that makes you faster.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I think the thing that I found, though, even looking for a coach, and not, this is kind of side note, so I'm just bringing it up. But the hard part is you try to have confidence in the coach, but at the same time, you don't know what that coach has really done. So you go, all right, is he really just training me because he needs the money, or is he training me because he loves me and wants to see me really obtain this goal? And I don't mean to say that in a bad way, because I don't want, it's not intended that way, but I see a lot of things with coaches that they put things out there and it's like, here's your program. And it's like, okay, you've asked me X amount of questions, but reality is I might know as much as you do. It's kind of like shopping for a car and the car dealer comes up to you and says, this is the car. And it's like, dude, I've read every blog. I know all these things about here. What I really want you to do is, you understand what I'm getting at. And so how do you, as a, for me, for instance, if I had the opportunity to train with you, of course I'm going to take it. There's no way I can dispute what you've done, right? I mean, there's no way. I can read every book right here. I can go through, see every athlete, what they've ever said about you. There's no doubt you're going to say, Bart, when you get to Leadville, you're going to be up against Jeremy Bishop. You're going to be up against this guy I've trained. I know exactly what you're going. And you're going to cut through all my bullshit really quick because you've done it so much. And let's be clear. All of us have a lot of baggage we want to bring to the table of, well, I have this problem, or, it's this, or my bike's a little too heavy. You're going to see through all that because you've been through it so many times that it's going to be like, look, dude, I don't give a crap how much your wheels weigh. I don't care how much this weighs. This is what I want to know. What power meter, what's the watt rate, whatever it may be. I'm not saying that, but address that for me. I mean, how do you cut through that BS then?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Even with the coaches on our staff, we have 40 coaches now in the Peaks Coaching Group, and a lot of them have these incredible expertises. We have this one guy who's coached a bunch of winning Ram teams, and it's like, this guy, man, if I was going to do Ram, that would be the dude I want to coach me. And then we've got a guy who's coached 24-hour single speed, mountain bikers.
Wow.
Crazy 24-hour mountain bike races with a power meter.
Right.
So, very highly specialized things. So I think that there has to be this kind of vetting process. And you say, okay, hey, what have you really, done and kind of pull that away? Okay, I got to read through their bio. Okay,
right.
This kind of makes sense. I need to talk to them. And then see if you can kind of break all those things down. And to me, that's the biggest part of our job, here at the Peaks Coaching Group, really, is to connect the right coach with the right athlete.
Sure.
Because, there are principles of power training.
Sure.
Right? And everybody, I think, all of our coaches have to adhere to those things.
Sure.
They have to deliver a certain deliverables. But at the same time, they have to also bring their own expertise, bring their own knowledge, all those things to the table, and in that way they really resonate. So, to me, the best connections that happen between the athlete and coach are when the athlete takes the time to really interview that coach.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 phone interviews, even. To just really see, I need to get to know this guy because I'm putting I'm putting hard money, I'm putting a lot of time and effort into this.
Yeah.
I gotta believe in him,
Yeah. I've always said I think one of the best reality TV shows out there would be to literally see athletes that are guys like me that have got families and all that, and then you train them to be able to go ride in one race like the Tour of Utah with the pros. Take 6 or 7 guys and you put this total team together that you train all year long to come and be able to just see where they could actually stack up after they start here. You do that. Not kind of like The Biggest Loser, but in essence, like The Biggest Loser. Knowing they're not necessarily going to win, but teach them all these things they can about the sport of cycling and how much press that would get. Anyway, just a fun idea. Yeah, it would be. Now doing it's the other part. So I'll go on to the next question. What part do you find nutrition plays in building power?
Yeah. So, nutrition is really important. I have, my philosophy has always been the philosophy of a stool, that you sit on at the bar or whatever, at the kitchen table. And pretty much every stool has 3 legs, sometimes has 4 legs, but generally 3. The 3 legs are the physical training you have to do, the mental training that you have to do, and then it has to be the nutritional side that you have to make sure that you're building the best body.
Yeah.
So, reminder, right? I mean, we change ourselves over every 6 months, and we build a new nose, we build new bones, we build new skin. All that stuff is continually changing and rebuilding. And if you build your body with a bunch of hamburgers and curly fries or whatever, that you're not building your body at the best that it possibly can be. So it's super important that nutrition plays a major role in there. Now, I don't think that you need to go totally insane and say, okay, well, not totally insane, but go off the deep end.
Yeah.
And I've seen athletes who've gone off the deep end and really, restricting their diet, being like just too restrictive, and that's hurting them the other way. They've lost muscle mass, they've lost power, all that stuff. It's really difficult, I think, to succeed at a very, very high level if you're a vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
It can be done, but it's really, really difficult. Protein is so important for our muscles. The hemi-iron that comes in red meat is incredibly important. The creatine that comes in red meat is incredibly important as well. So it can be done, but it's difficult. So I think that that's something, if you're a vegetarian, you really have to spend a lot of time as an athlete to really making sure your nutrition is dialed. The biggest, and that's the biggest thing that I see. I mean, every single athlete that comes to me, whether they're a pro, whether they're a masters rider, whether they're a woman, whether they're a cyclist or whatever, they're all low in iron. Everybody is low in iron. And it's because they just don't get enough iron in their diet. I mean, reminder, iron is the glue that binds the oxygen molecule to the red blood cell. And you use that glue and it's gone.
Yeah.
So you have to replenish with iron. So all my athletes, are one, if they're not a vegetarian, they're still supplementing with iron supplements just because it's so critical. Our respiration rates are so high. We use a tremendous amount of iron. So it's really important for that.
Man, I just learned a tip of the day right there for me. More iron. I'm going to be the next champion now. I got my iron. Awesome. Well, thanks. That's a really cool tip. So the next question I have, when looking at a bike, how much should aerodynamics factor into the purchase of my bike or wheels or whatever it may be?
Yeah. So I think that that's a thing that you should really consider now. If you'd asked me that question, Bart, 5 years ago, I'd say, not so much. But it really does make a difference now. Some of these frames that are so aero, I mean, they are much easier to ride faster. They are more economical, without a doubt. I've got a Scott foil. They've been kind enough to give us a great deal and sponsor the Peace Cushioning Group this past year and next year as well. And I mean, holy moly! I mean, the bike is easier. It's just faster because it's aero. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the most aero bike that I've ever had, and it's faster. Now, wheels are huge. I mean, absolutely huge. It's one of those things where you have to really consider it. The Zip did an incredible research job with their Firecrest wheels.
Okay.
They figured it out mathematically. They figured out how to make those wheels faster. I got to sit with chief aerodynamicist and engineer for that project. Spent a few hours with him at Enterprise a couple of years ago. He was talking about, hey, you know what? We found wind, air comes across the wheel and the fork blade and it builds up in a wave, similar to like an ocean wave might build up. And if the wheel isn't shaped the right way, or if the fork isn't shaped the right way, then the wave builds up and builds and builds and builds, and then it sloughs off. And that's that bigger that wave, the longer it builds up, the bigger the wave is, then it creates that speed wobble. It can create speed wobble, and it's not aerodynamically clean. It doesn't just go straight by. So that was the thing they learned by making the rim depth really wider at the nipple side of it, is that it made the wave really small and it breaks really quick. So it's like a bunch of small waves that break really, really quick, to the wheel more aerodynamic, and it makes the bike more stable. So, the Zip Firecrest wheels, the Smart Indy wheels, those are the same thing. Those are super fast. To me, I've had every power meter there is, and continually got new ones. Everybody sends me ones. I've got 2 prototypes that I've got on 2 bikes right now that I can't even tell you about yet.
Yeah.
And then I've got the new rotor one on another bike with both left and right. It's like when I was thinking about, like, well, gosh, what power meter would I buy right now if I had, a certain set of money, either, buy a power meter or a set of wheels? Well, the answer would be easy. Just buy a power tap, because you can get it with Smart Indy wheels, right?
Yeah.
You got the Aero wheels, and you got a power meter built in.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you go faster, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, power. I don't know if I think power tap really actually needs to exploit that more, because it's the only power meter that makes you faster.
Yeah. How funny. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That is a good point, though, for sure. Okay, so I guess the consensus there is that we need to consider aerodynamics. We need to be looking at wheels and taking those into consideration when we're buying our products today. Not just saying, you know what, it's just about horsepower and forget about the rest. It's a combination of those things.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Then I'll keep moving on. Can you give us a simple way of thinking about power and how to get to your baseline, figure your watt to weight ratio, and then implement that into your training strategy? Now, I tell you this because as I read your book and as I've studied with other people, I have to tell you that I'm not the smartest guy in the world. That doesn't take long to figure out. But this gets really complicated. I get into the software sometimes, and I've had a couple guys that go through and they look at everything so fast. They take this file and they lay it over that, and I'm like, okay, wait a freaking minute. Am I making success? Or that's all I want to know, But that sounds too simple, I guess. But help me, I guess, with that. How do we take this? I'm not saying we can't be complicated, but simplify this whole power thing for me, if you could.
Right, sure. No, and that's a great question, Barbara, because a lot of people ask that. And it's like, what is all this telling me? Am I getting better? Am I not getting better? Should I train more? Should I train less? Should I train differently than I'm currently training? So those are key things that you have to ask, and I think that's something that you always have to think about when you're designing software like we do and everything. Mm-hmm. Because you can go down the rabbit hole, and you can go really deep into the rabbit hole if you want to. Really, really simply, one, you got to test yourself, right? Because you got to know what your baseline is. So you got to do our what we call the power profile test. You got to do a 1 minute all out test. You got to do a bunch of sprints to get your best 5 seconds. You got to do a 5-minute test to get your 5-minute VO2 max. And you got to do at least a 20-minute test where you're trying to get a proxy of what we call functional threshold power.
Sure.
Functional threshold power is 60 minutes. Take 5% off your 20-minute power. Typically, that's pretty close to your 60 minutes. So 60 minutes is hard to do. So you got to do those tests. Those 4 places you got to be: 5 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, and 20 minutes. You got to do those.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Is there a place you can find all that right now? If somebody's watching here, can they go to your website? Can they go to somewhere? And where do they find that they can start doing it?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of articles on my peakscoachinggroup.com website. I believe there's even some articles on the Training Peaks site under Power 411 as well. Perfect. And then, of course, in my book, Training Racing with the Power Meter, I believe Chapter 4 is when we start talking about that fun stuff.
Great.
So you got to do the test, and then that 20 minute minus 5% is what sets your functional threshold power. let's say, for example, that's 300 watts.
Yep.
Then you use our training levels. Dr. Coggan came up with power training levels. Use his training levels to set, okay, what's my tempo pace? What's my endurance pace? What's my active recovery?
Yep.
What's my VO2 max and aerobic capacity? Once you've got those, now you can...
Can't hear you.
So to me, the trick is that you're training the right system when you want to train it, and that's something that really changed before. We've never had that before. So now we can train the right system because we know what our zones are. But then the second thing you got to do is you got to just test again. Every 6 weeks you got to test. You got to do it. I don't care if it's in December. I don't care if it's in February. I don't care if it's in June. You have to test. Even everybody's like, oh, I race, blah, 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 blah. I don't care, You got to test because, even in a lot of races, you won't do a 1 minute all out.
Right.
You won't do a flat out sprint maybe, or you may not ever do a full 20 minutes as hard as you can go.
Right.
And so you've got to know where those things are every 6 weeks because generally our physiology, our body adapts in about 6 to 8 week cycles. And so, you can always think about, okay, well, everything I did 6 to 8 weeks ago, here we are, the end of October, well, what were you doing, back in August, middle of August, beginning of August? That's what's impacting your fitness now.
Right.
All right. So that's something that you have to always consider and think about. So to me, that's the simplest way I can do it. Test your power profile, have your training zones, train to those training zones, and then retest to make sure that you're improving, or we need to make a change. Hey, I'm not improving. Yeah, let's change up our training to do something different.
Gotcha. Okay, so one of the questions, that's why I was writing this down, was Tate asked how often he recommends VO2 max test, and that's every 6 weeks.
Yeah, so VO2 max test is a little different.
Okay.
So a true VO2 max test in the lab, they're essentially just giving you a ramp test, and they're seeing how big your lung capacity is, and so to tell you the truth, Bart, the only time I ever have an athlete do a VO2 max test is if they're a 19 or 23-year-old guy who comes to me and says, I want to be a pro. Okay, well, we need to go see, do you have the lungs to be a pro? If you crack out a 50 milliliters per kg test, it's like, hey dude, golf is kind of a good sport. So, but you have to have the lungs to be able to be a pro.
And what's ideal?
The bigger the better. I'd make the break point at 70. If you're in your 20s, if you don't have the 70 milliliters per kg per kilogram body weight, then it's going to be tough.
So this young guy, he's right there in that age group, so he'll be interested to hear that. That's why I ask.
So go get a test, find out if you have the capability of being a pro. But then really after that, you can just test on your power meter. You just do your bike, and you just ride your bike and do your test on your power meter, and you're good, because another VO2 max test isn't really going to give you, that much more information.
Oh, okay. Good to know. All right, so the next question. So right now we consider this as our off season for lots of us. Walk us through a year of training and how different, the season should be for us, or should there be seasons?
Sure. Well, there absolutely should. So, to me, periodization is a good thing. You have to have periodization because, we need rest. Absolutely, we have to have rest. We need to recharge our battery, so to speak. So, I would say that the best way to think about it is, starting now, let's say November 1, that begins your official off-season training plan. So maybe then is when you do your cross training, hiking or cross-country skiing or rollerblading, weightlifting, taking yoga classes, Pilates, whatever you decide you want to do in the off season. You're incorporating that cross training in with some fun cycling. Maybe you're going mountain biking or cyclocross riding, whatever you're doing, you're just doing something different, and you're out there, enjoying, riding. So that's really November. December kind of becomes a little more focused. You're starting to do a little more what we call tempo and sweet spot intervals, maybe some cadence-based intervals to make sure that you're keeping the speed change alive. And then the other thing that you're trying to do is, when you start to come into the season, January and February, now you're starting to integrate the cross-training stuff and transition that into really what you've done, on the bike. How can I get the strength from the weight training and put it into the bicycle if that's possible? So that may be something that you're really looking for, to do. Now, the thing that you want to also do is once we kind of get into the season, then you come into the season with your battery 100% charged. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. When you go in the off season, let's say your goal starting November 1 is that your battery is completely charged, 100%, and you recovered from the previous season, you really feel fresh, you're really good to go. During that off season, November through February, you're never decharging the battery lower than 97%. Comes down to 97, recharge to 100. 97, recharge to 100. 97, recharge to 100. You can train freaking hard in the off season, but the trick is you have to recover, and it goes down, goes back up, goes down, back up. If you let the battery come down to 90 and then you rest, give yourself a rest week, then you peak in January and whatever.
Right.
So you got to come into the season, the end of February, with your battery still 100% charged. You're ready to race, man. I got to get out there. Legs are twitching. I'm ready to go. Let's kill it. That kind of thing. Through the season, then, in the beginning part of the season, you're training. You're still training. You're trying to make sure that you're ready, fresh for the racing season, races, blah blah blah. Keep it rolling, all that stuff, and not losing fitness, and not and make sure you're honing the things you need to hone. And then during the middle of the year, let's say the summer, one of the things that I'm a big believer in is taking a 2-week break in the middle of the season. Now, that may not be dead in the middle of July or whatever. Maybe, for some people it may actually be the end of May. Or maybe for another person it may be the end of July. Wherever that is, wherever that makes the most sense. 1 week off the bike, don't even ride for a week. The next week is really just kind of an easier week of rebuilding some fitness a little bit. But during that 2 weeks, I give them a 2-week weight training program, no matter what. And the reason for that is because of what we call the confusion principle. So, your body's been used to adapting to this constant stress of cardiovascular stress, of muscular stress in a very particular way. You're attached to the pedals, so it kind of stops adapting because you're not maybe doing enough stress anymore, or just to stop adapting because it's adapted as far as it can to what you're doing. But you take 2 weeks off and you throw yourself into the weight room and you start lifting a bunch of weights, and your body's like, "What? What are you doing to me?
Yeah.
I'm a cyclist. I'm not a weightlifter." Right? You get sore and you're like, "Oh, I got the sucks," and it's hard, and you're moving a different way, and you don't really gain any strength in 2 weeks in the weight room. That's silly. But what it does is it shocks your body into thinking that now you're trying to make it adapt to strength training exercises, and you're forgetting all this endurance stuff that you've done. And so it kind of resets your body, so to speak, and says, "Oh, we need to go back into what we call a functional overreaching state, where we're now absorbing the training and we're getting stronger from it." And so you kind of trick it in that 2 weeks, and then the third week you come back and you're now back on your bike. Your body switched over and says, "Oh, I'm ready to reabsorb all this new training, you start training again and get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger throughout the rest of the season type of thing.
Wow. One more big gem right there I just learned. Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you. All right, so the next one. When doing intervals, is it better to do it on a trainer or outside?
I think it really depends on your location and what you have available to you outside. If you live in a place where it's very difficult to do intervals and there's a lot of stoplights, you're in an urban area, then I would say it's probably better to do very focused workouts indoors.
Okay.
No distractions, blah, 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 no stoplights, no cars, all that stuff. That's really good. If you live in a location where, you don't have to worry about those things, then man, I like riding a bike outside. So I would go outside and do those intervals because one, I think that there is something to be said for being able to use your entire body. Get out of the saddle, thrash on the handlebars, do all those things. That's really what you're looking for. But either way is fine.
Okay.
I coach. I coach 2 people right now that they're so highly time constrained that they only train indoors during the week. That's the only way they can train. They live in a very urban environment. They wouldn't be able to train, for an hour and a half and get any real meaningful training in if they went outside.
Right.
They just ride indoors, and they get these amazing indoor workouts. And as a consequence, they have incredible improvements. This one guy just kind of continues to do ka-chunk, up and up and up his FTP, and so it's just it's a great way to train.
Okay, good to know. What is the best trainer to train on? What's the best power meter? Got to ask those questions, right? You're the man. And I'm not saying endorse anybody necessarily, but I mean, there's certain ones out there that I know, that make a big difference. So.
Sure. No, there are. You're right. There are. Well, I'll tell you, from a most versatile standpoint, the combi trainer has got definitely my vote. They've been around for so long, and they've just got all kinds of training plans and programs you can do, and they're super robust. They don't break. Things last forever. We just did an erg video. I don't know if you've ever heard of ergvideo.com, but we just did a great promotion with those guys and made a bunch of erg videos and came out with a training plan for that. And that was really fun. You can watch, a video while you ride, so there's interactivity to it. The other 2 trainers that I really like are the Le Mans Revolution trainer and then the Wahoo Kicker. I mean, both those things are sweet. Feels like you're outside. You get rid of that rear wheel. The Le Mans is great, because it's smooth. It's got a great flywheel. It feels really, really nice. The Wahoo has the same feel, and it's got Amp Plus and Bluetooth on it, so you can control it with your iPad or iPhone right there in front of you. Up and raise, lower the resistance. I have one client that he rides on his Wahoo Kicker. And as soon as he's done, he hits the button and it uploads the data right to Training Peaks. Boom, it's done. It gives me an email. He just uploaded his data. He doesn't have time for the analysis. That's why he pays me to, hey, analyze my data, tell me what I'm doing, what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right. Yeah. So I like those 3 really. And,
good.
The best power meter is tough because there's so many great choices now. It comes down to your budget. Again, like I said, if it's a choice between wheels and a power meter, well, the answer is easy. You get a power tap, you can get both. Yeah. With smart ND wheels on there. And if it's like, well, I need a mountain bike one that's a double X, well, you got 2 choices. You can go with an SRM or you can go with a SRAM Cork one. So you've got some great choices there. The rotor is a really nice one. It's got both left and right now on there. I think we're going to see a lot more of these companies coming out with these left and right. And station one is amazing from the fact that it's like this little thing that sits on the crank now, and it's so simple, and it just, you slap a crank arm on there, and you got a power meter, and it pairs really easy. It talks to your phone. So, you know, there are really good choices out there, and I don't know. I mean, it really just kind of depends on your needs and then your budget, really.
Okay, so for me, let's say budget's not, you know, not worried about budget. Which one would you think would go for?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot here, aren't you?
I am. The reason is, I'll tell you why. I ride power meters, right? Right now I'm riding a Cork, but SRM's always in my face. I look at the SRM and go, well, they've been around for years and years. I see the new technology. I bought a Cyclops heart rate power meter type of a thing that they have out. It's $100 because I had the XX1 on my mountain bike and wanted to just play around with it. And it was funny. I mean, that sucker's not, sad to say, but it's not totally off on a steady state. It's like you can take my Cork in that and I go, dang, it's pretty impressive for $100. I mean, crazy as it may sound, right? I mean, but you know, I mean, is there that much difference if there's no budget? I mean, like, I've done my research on the trainers, and CompuTrainer, to me, for the money, if you take everything aside, and I'm not saying I don't like any of the others, I have them, but CompuTrainer for the money, for what they've done, the years they've been in the business, it's kind of like having you as my coach. I can't go wrong. Like, it measures the right, it's trained. More pros have been trained on that, I think, than any other, I would say, trainer there is out there. You know, all the major experts I know will recommend it in some way or another. So I'm looking at this industry. I'm not saying that it's the end all be all, but is SRM that much better than Cork? Is Cork that much better than Cyclops? I mean, or if you just have a budget, go get a power meter and train power, I guess is the question.
Right. Yeah. No, it's tough. It's a tough call, Bart, because you know, it's there are pluses and minuses to both. You know?
Okay.
I have guys who bought $4,000 SRMs, and you know, they've been limits. I've had people who bought Quarks, and they've been limits. You know, and so it's kind of like, yeah, you know, there's, you know, I've had people who bought Power House and had issues with them.
Yeah.
So they all kind of have these same things. And you have to look at them from that perspective. I would probably, you know, I don't know. It's a tough call. Because,
okay.
Right now I'm riding a new rotor crank, and I like it. You know, it shows power balance on the Garmin. It's true left and right. It's got a battery that you can remove right there. That's kind of the downside of SRM. Although the Interbikes, you know, the SRM, they have the new mountain bike one has a magnet recharger, and you know, it makes it really simple to recharge that thing. So you know, it's a tough call because, you know, I don't know if there is a legitimate. Oh gosh, is there a Ferrari model? Is the SRM the Ferrari one because it's $4,000 or whatever?
Right.
Is really worth it? You know, can you go just as fast in a souped-up Honda or something? You know?
Right.
So anyway.
Okay. Well, even Pioneer is getting in the industry. Interbike, I did an interview with Pioneer and went, good. You know, I mean, primary, there's so many directions that this is going right now, and anyway, so that's why I asked the question. Thanks for addressing that. So I guess the answer there is, everybody, if you are not training with power, train with power. That's the biggest thing that we're going to end up here at. So so what is the best way to measure your success with your training? And I ask this because I want you to lead into a lot of people say heart rate is the way to go. A lot of people say power is the way to go. A lot of people say forget all that crap and just go out there and ride. And if you're kicking your buddy's butt, you're doing fine. I mean, so help us see what we should do, because I feel like a lot of us out there, including myself, I'm the first one to admit it. I'm chasing the newest shiny thing that there is out there to try to get to that next level. And, you know, I do want to, it's nice to get somebody that's been there, done that, been through all this stuff to say, okay, if you really want to measure it, this is it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it from a training perspective, I think that you have to measure it through your functional threshold power, and you have to say, I have improved. I've gone from a threshold of 250 watts to 300 watts, and that's truly improvement. You've gotten better. You're stronger. Your FTP is higher. You can, do all those things. I look at three things that I measure, and depending on how you define success and depending on your goals, achieving one of those three or all those three may be success. One, has your FTP gone up? Two, has your endurance improved? It's one thing to be able to drill it at 350 watts per hour.
Right.
It's a completely different thing to be able to drill it at 340 watts per hour at the end of a 5-hour ride.
Right.
So you got to have that endurance side as well, especially for something like you might be doing at load jump. Then the other thing is repeatability, right? You have to know, has my repeatability improved? Let's say you're going to go do, a short track mountain bike race, and you got to go 20 laps, and you got to go up this hill every time around. You're going to do 20 hill repeats, or you're going to do a criterium with a hill in it, or you're going to do a circuit race on the road bike that's got a 5-mile loop, and it's got a 1K climb every time on the front side and a 1K climb on the back side.
Mm-hmm.
So then you've got wow, man, we're going to do like 20, 30 times at this hill. Or maybe you just need to attack. Maybe you need to be able to attack 10 times, and that's the 10th one that breaks the rubber band and gets you away.
Mm-hmm.
So repeatability is really critical to success as well. So 3 things: FTP, endurance, repeatability. So those are the 3 things. You can measure all those 3 things with power movement. So that's great. Now, when we talk about success from a racing standpoint, you just got to throw all those numbers away, because success from a racing standpoint is standing on top of the step of the podium, man.
Yeah, 1, 2, or 3.
That's it, And so, I mean, there is nothing better than being on top of the podium. I really hate losing.
Yeah.
So I love winning. Winning's a great thing. It feels great. It's how hard you've worked. You push yourself. You've done all the hard work. You made the right moves. You've been smart. You ate right. You did all the sacrifices, and you won. You accomplished something. I think that no matter how small of a race, no matter how big of a race that is, that's really, really powerful thing. And 2, to me, that then says that you are successful. And to me, that's not just a part of saying, okay, how do I make an athlete successful? They win a race, or maybe for them they finish a century ride under 5 hours, or they do the tap the tour in less than 7 hours, or whatever that is for them, whatever that win is for them.
Yeah.
Then that takes, to me, the real end goal, right, is to teach that athlete how to become successful in the rest of their life.
Right.
Right. It's like, now take the same principles and do them with your business, or do them at work, or do them with your family.
Sure.
Whatever that is, and that really is a life-changing kind of event.
Okay. So I'm going to take from that power is the best way to actually measure all 3 of those things to become successful in those different types of things. And I'll throw this out there because you don't know what you don't know. But I can tell you, when I started with power, the most interesting thing out there for everybody, for me, was when I thought I was really pushing hard on a certain hill, when I got my power meter and I started looking at it, I was like, holy crap, I'm really slacking off. Like, here's where my watts should be. And I really had to, it was an aha moment for me. Like, the first time I was like, holy crap, I got to, I want to maintain this type of power. I've got to keep going, and I got to ride harder in this section than I normally thought I thought I was. But it was one of those, and I've had a lot of friends that once they've got their power meter, they go, man, it just makes such a big difference to be able to look down and say, yeah, I really am doing X versus, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm riding hard. I feel my heart rate's right here. But reality is when you look down, and that doesn't mean you have to put that much more on the pedal. but you do need to put a little on there because you're not there. Or, man, I've been in pace lines where I'm like, guys, we're all going to blow up. I was in one race and I looked at the guy that was pushing the hardest and said, we're going to die. No, we're not. I said, I'm telling you, we are going to die. No, we're not. I said, okay, I'm out and I'll see you at the finish line because we can't maintain this. I know what I am and I know where you ride. I've rode with you long enough telling you we're going to die. Didn't believe me and we killed him just because of understanding where your threshold was, what you've said. So if I hadn't had that power meter on there, I couldn't have been as bold as I needed to be in that situation and backed myself out. I would have died with the rest of them. So anyway, that was one, I guess, win for me as far as power goes. There is one last question that was asked, and this is by a really reputable bike guy out of Utah, so I'm not going to say his name because I don't want everybody, but he said, I'd like to know how power-based coaching implements in cross-training workouts. So he wanted to know, their prescription workout, how does spontaneous fit in with structured power coaching, so that cyclocross, all of a sudden you got the spontaneous burst, you got this or that. How are you able to fit that in with your training from this regimen, I guess, is the question.
So how do you train?
You want me to read it again so it just makes sense? It says, I'll read it exactly. It says, I would like to know power-based coach implements cross-training workouts into their prescribed workouts. How does spontaneous fit within the structure of pay-for-play coaching?
Right. So, I think that's where you have to have a time for the athlete to give them the freedom to do that. And so, it's more of a, okay, hey, you know what? Now is November, and let's think about what you're gonna do in November. Oh wow, cool! You're gonna, you wanna go rock climbing in the indoor gym once a week. You want to go rollerblading with your honey on Thursdays, or once a week. Then have to be Thursdays or whatever, and maybe you want to go do a mountain bike ride on the weekend and just go for it. I think that's where, one, you have to say, okay, here are the different things you can do, and then you come up with a plan for them and say, okay, well, this week, you got to make sure that you get in that rollerblading session, you got to make sure that you get in that mountain bike ride,
Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure you get in whatever else that cross-training might be, and then they can put those things into the different days that fit them the best. Now, when you get into more structured, kind of training, let's say December maybe now I'm starting to do more intervals of sweet spot, and tempo, and getting a little more focused, then, again, you kind of have to say, all right, here's your bike workout, and then what's the important thing? You have to decide what's the most important thing. So, like right now, I've got an athlete that I'm coaching that really wants to make the next jump. He's an excellent sprinter already in the Pro Tour. And he really wants to be winning the Pro Tour stages, in big races instead of right there on the cusp of them. He has some really close calls this year. So we're doing, a big weight training regime this year. We're doing a big plyometric regime. He lives in the mountains. So he's going to be doing a bunch of uphill hiking,
Mm-hmm.
And he also is in kind of an area where it snows a bunch. So he's going to be able to do some snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. So I'm giving him, guidelines and said, okay, here are the bike workouts.
Yeah.
For November and December, the cross-training workouts actually take precedence. So he actually does his weights, his plyometrics, his hiking or something before in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the day, and he's a pro, so he gets the whole day to train.
Sure.
And then in the afternoon, he does his bicycle ride indoors on the trainer or outside or whatever.
Cool.
So that way you get a little bit of each, and still have the focus of the specificness of power training.
Excellent. Great answer. Loved it. So I'm going to wrap us up a little bit. I want you to tell everybody out there how they can utilize, Training Peaks, how they can take advantage of everything there is out there. And then I'll kind of give a little close up, and then I'll quit the recording here for everybody, and then you and I can just chat offline for just a second.
All right, cool, no problem. So you can reach me through peakscoachinggroup.com, and we've got lots of coaches, about 45 different coaches with expertises in every discipline of cycling. Then another way to we've got all kinds of things in there, webinars, everything with lots of educational type things on there. The other thing that is interesting for a lot of people is in the off season, especially, I have pre-built training plans using all of my principles of training with power on Training Peaks. So if you go to trainingpeaks.com/hunter, it takes you to my training plan page. I've got 50, 60 training plans on there now, built over the years. They're really nice. They're inexpensive. They're a great structure to give you. And then, of course, check out our software, trainingpeaks.com as well. WKO Plus software is on there. Version 3 is up right now. Everybody has a copy of version 3 is going to get a discount on the upcoming version 4, which there will be for Bart a Mac version, native Mac version. So you'll be dialed in, man.
Can't wait.
So yeah, give me a shout anytime. Glad to help.
Hey, well, thanks. This was brought to you by Cycling Strong. Hunter Allen, can't believe having him today. All the amazing information I got. I know I got some really great nuggets from this interview. If you didn't, watch it again because they're in there. And if you have any questions, please reach out to him. Always, this video, if you want to make a comment below, Training Peaks will have access to the video. They'll know it's on YouTube. They can answer your questions there. We'll try to answer your questions the best we can. But if you don't know, you'll never get to your next level. And the thing I found when I did have a coach was there's nothing like having somebody that says, did you do this today? And as crazy as that sounds, it makes you every day go, I've got to report this. Gosh dang it. And when you're riding, it makes you look at your numbers closer because it's embarrassing. I mean, I've started rides, to be honest with you, and restarted them because I didn't want to send those numbers over. I was like, sheesh. They see this number, they're going to be like, Bart, you were slacking today. And so if you're driven and you're motivated, that doesn't mean you don't need a coach. I'm here to tell you that. Now, as I said in the video earlier, I'm not using a coach right now. The reason I'm not is because my son is 14 years old. He really wants to become a pro. He's been trying to learn a lot. I took, most of you don't know this, but 3 years ago, I took the whole year off and helped him get on the bike and get going on the bike so that I could just have fun with him. I thought it was really important for him to enjoy cycling, not train hard. And so we did that, had a great year. This last year, he needed just really good support with dad and time. We rode really hard. All of you that know my son that rode out there, he is one of the toughest riders you'll ever ride against. I mean, he's amazing. And he did great. Now, this year, he needs a lot more structure, and so do I, to reach our goals. So I am looking, and we'll be working with somebody of some sort this year through the blog. You all know that. I've said that before, and you'll all be able to see what we're doing and what training I'm going to do to get myself to that next level. So thanks again, Hunter. We appreciate you so much, and everybody else stay tuned to the rest of the things we're going to do, and we'll sign off for now.